acting is all about becoming another person, it's no wonder there are several schools of thought with regard to how one might approach such a complicated task. Unless, of course, you're Adam Sandler, when you're just Adam Sandler over and over again until I hate you, which is pretty quickly. The great school of method acting is probably the most famous, with actors routinely putting themselves through hell to convincingly play pretend, and sometimes that preparation verges on mentally unstable levels. I'm Adam from WhatCulture.com, and this is 10 actors who conducted insane research for iconic movie roles. Number 10, Adrien Brody, The Pianist. Adrien Brody became the youngest male in history to bag an Oscar for Best Actor at just 29 years old for Roman Polanski's The Pianist. Had he not won, he might have been slightly pissed at that because he had to go through so much preparation for the role. For authenticity's sake, Brody set about creating an existence for himself that would match the sad and lonely soul of his character. He gave up his apartment and his car and withdrew from society with minimal contact from other humans, which prompted his then-girlfriend to leave him, at which point, unsurprisingly, he became depressed in real life, all while learning the piano to expert level. What a weird man. Number 9, the entire cast, The Seven Samurai. Akira Kurosawa was, to put it nicely, batshit insane as he proved while shooting The Seven Samurai. To ensure that his actors were acquainted with samurai life, he insisted they all wear their costumes on an endless loop for 3 weeks so they could bond with them. He also mentioned that he wanted them to have that worn-down look and that dirt was encouraged, and it worked. It wasn't very hygienic, and I wouldn't want to hug any of them, but the cast were reported to have bonded spiritually with their characters in unexpected ways over the course of the weeks, and the movie itself went on to become a classic of world cinema. Number 8, Marlon Brando, The Men. Although Marlon Brando is often considered to be one of the greatest, if not the greatest actors of his time, his debut flick, The Men, still remains relatively unknown to mainstream audiences, which must have annoyed Brando, who spent almost a month confined to a ward in an army hospital to get into character. While there, he stuck to using a wheelchair, studying the patients in preparation for his role. It's somewhat ironic that the man who lived and breathed method acting so early in his career would lapse so greatly towards the end of it, showing up for movies overweight and underprepared, often without having read the script beforehand. Number 7, Viggo Mortensen, Eastern Promises. Starring as Nikolai, a cleaner and driver in the Russian mafia, Mortensen took the preparation for his role super duper seriously. It's all up there on screen. To research playing a Russian, he moved to the country for a brief period and travelled the Urals. There he immersed himself in Russian life, watched Russian movies and television shows, and even tested his knowledge on the language. He also read books by famous Russian authors like Dostoevsky and spent weeks researching Russian gang culture with the aid of professional criminologists. He apparently became his character to such an extent that upon walking into a London-based Russian diner, the entire place fell into silence out of genuine fear of him, which, to be fair, is exactly how I would react if Viggo Mortensen walked in on me eating. Number 6, Rooney Mara, The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo. For The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, Rooney Mara could just have got a few fake piercings, slapped on the white makeup, and guessed at a Swedish accent, but she insisted on doing everything exactly right. So she started by getting 4 real piercings in her ears, one in her eyebrow and one on her nipple, which she's kept apparently. Then she learned to skateboard, drive a motorcycle and kickbox, and took courses in computing and dialect training. It didn't end there. To get even deeper into Lisbeth's psyche, Mara moved to Stockholm alone for a brief period. Her reward? An Oscar nomination, which was won by Meryl Streep. And number 5, Meryl Streep, Sophie's Choice. On more than one occasion, we've all been told that Meryl Streep is probably the greatest actor of her time, and she certainly underlines this statement with her performance in Sophie's Choice, which goes all the way back to the preparation process. Streep decided that to play the role of a Polish immigrant learning a single language, that just wasn't good enough. She extended her research period into the realms of madness and tasked herself with learning how to speak both German and Polish. It didn't stop there. She also opted to learn to speak German with a Polish accent to grant her character the highest dose of authenticity possible. Her accent was deemed perfect by many Polish critics, and her state of mind is deemed chutney bonkers by me. Number 4, Robert De Niro, Raging Bull. Aside from gaining all the necessary weight to play Jake LaMotta, crazy Robert De Niro would spend hours and hours every day training with professional boxing coaches. Not only that, to enhance the realism of his relationship with Joe Pesci within the movie, the pair opted to actually move in with one another just to give their bromance that extra spicy sauce. De Niro also hung out with LaMotta and his former girlfriend Vicky so as to learn as much as possible about their personalities and complicated history. As a mark of his success in preparation, LaMotta said that De Niro had been one of the 20 best middleweight fighters he'd ever trained. Number 3, Forrest Whitaker, the last King of Scotland. To prepare for his role as the real-life dictator Idi Amin, Whitaker underwent an extremely thorough and notoriously intricate research process. He started by learning to play the accordion, which was one of Amin's favourite pastimes, although, and this is crucial, he did not have to play an accordion in the movie. He moved to Uganda to breathe in the atmosphere and the politics of the country. There he met with many of Amin's relatives, former generals, friends and victims in an attempt to build up a wide and unbiased portrait of the man himself. And he's not done. Whitaker also took up learning Swahili and spent months mastering Amin's Eastern African accent, and that is what Oscars are made of, pure, undiluted crazy. Number 2, Heath Ledger, The Dark Knight. And speaking of insane, Heath Ledger went down a very, very different route when it came to preparing for his Oscar-winning turn as the Joker in Christopher Nolan's The Dark Knight, in that he allegedly went fully insane in real life. The actor shut himself away and spent a month keeping a diary and experimenting with voices. He eventually came to the conclusion there was no humanity in the Joker, and given that Christopher Nolan had given him free rein and creative control over the character's mannerisms, emerged with the persona we all know and love today. Whether or not this led to his insomnia and drug dependency and ultimately his untimely death, we will never know, but it certainly couldn't have been healthy. And number 1, Daniel Day-Lewis, Every Goddamn Thing. Daniel Day-Lewis is probably the most famous method actor in the world and serves as living proof that immersing yourself in questionable, insane ways will certainly pay off come awards season. He spent nearly an entire shoot in a wheelchair for My Left Foot, forcing crew members to carry him to and from that wheelchair. He spent over 48 hours in a prison cell without food or water for In the Name of the Father, took butchery lessons for Gangs of New York, and spent the entirety of the Lincoln shoot being called Mr. President by the cast and crew. For this, he has won 3 Best Actor Oscars in just over 2 decades, more than Marlon Brando, Jack Nicholson, Robert De Niro, and all those other good people. And all that goes to show is, crazy does pay.